Alright, welcome to Playground's first video showcase of some of the features that we've added to Playground. In the recent dev blog, we kind of mentioned the idea of Mindstorm and some of its capabilities. And in this kind of showcase, I'm going to try and showcase some of these GUI changes that we've made and kind of the user experience whilst using them. But yeah, let's go and get right into it. So let's go and create a sandbox here. There's this cool cutscene that I've made, which kind of showcases this idea of the advancements menu being replaced by the playground menu. So we're going to go and press this L button here. That's going to open our playground menu. But I'll kind of showcase kind of the idea of like what a function really is here in Playground v2. So if we go to create a function, one of the newer things is we're making use of dialogues here. So enter the name of the new function. We're just going to call it test. And you can see this idea of kind of a function scope, or what we call it as an action scope. And how to kind of describe this is, so if you choose a sandbox action scope, essentially how this function will run is you can only run it as the sandbox. So but a function with a sandbox means you can only run actions as the sandbox. And it's similar to entity, but with entity you can also run actions as the sandbox. An entity is essentially a player can be an entity, an NPC can be an entity. There's going to be a lot more things that you could use with this entity action scope. And then with the player scope, it includes all of these other scopes. So player is kind of a much broader action scope. And that's what we're going to go with just for this showcase. And as you see, this menu's changed a whole ton. Again, this is very early. Don't expect this to be final. But we have this idea of the return action. And as we can see, we can set a return value. So here we're just going to set it to something like sin_ender is amazing. So now that we have this function created, we're going to create a command. We're just going to call it test2. And this command will run as a player scope. So we can run that action or that function that we just made inside of this message action here. So we can call it using this fun dot and then the function name. So in that case it was test, and this will add it to the message. And we could also do something like maybe fun.test plus comma but can be a nerd. So how this message will show up, or how this message should show up, is sinender is awesome, comma but can also be a nerd, or can be a nerd. So we're just going to go and test that here using that command. So that didn't work at all, but I've gone ahead and fixed the bug. So now that we can see that sinender is awesome, but can also be a nerd. So that's exactly what we wanted to see. So now that we've kind of showcased this idea of strings inside of this return value, let's try something a little more complicated. Maybe let's try doing 10 plus 5. So this has a different color scheme, and that's shown here. And we're just going to do a simple, let's maybe try and do a damage action. So whenever we call this action, we do fun.test, and this will run this function and damage us for the amount of damage. So we're going to go into game mode survival here, and we're just going to run this test2, So you can see that took 15 hearts or 15 health of damage. So that's why we had 2.5 hearts left. All right, now that we've made some basic functions, let's go and move on to something a little more advanced. So here I've made a player display name function, and this just simply has a if statement. So if the player's rank is admin, then we return the display name. So in this case, it's an admin prefix, their name, and then whatever we provide the suffix as. And we have these two NPCs here. So this one, when interacted, will set our rank to admin. And then this one here, we just have a simple hello message with the suffix set to nerd. So if we go and run this, we see that the display message is set correctly other than this bold text. So let's go and make sure that gets reset before we do that. And now we can see that this is perfect. All right, and the last thing I want to showcase today is schedules. So let's go and make a schedule. We're just going to call it test. And we're going to use this entity action scope. So how this is going to work is it's going to attack all these NPCs along with me. So we're going to just go and change the duration here. We're going to set it to 5 ticks. Now we're going to apply this damage action. You can see this is happening kind of slow, and that's because Minecraft will only take a damage tick every 10 ticks. So to change that, we're going to set this to 1, and this will make it so it ticks a lot faster, as you can see. Every 5 ticks, these NPCs are now taking damage. And if we went into survival mode, you can see we're also taking damage. And that's because we're also an entity. All right, and that's about all for this showcase. Again, we went over functions, we went over commands, and we went over schedules. And then we also went over this idea of the expression values. We are definitely looking for feedback on everything that was shown today. That includes like the user experience and maybe some of the designs, but not really. As well as the idea of like this expression values, maybe some of the menus you saw along the way. Maybe you have some ideas for what actions you want to add, or maybe something like that. You're welcome to leave them in the comments or in the playground chat or Redstone Studios or even in Housing Hub. I'm sure I'll find them eventually. In any case, that's all for today. Thanks for joining this dev vlog, and I can't wait for the next one.